what the players' intentions are and what their specialties are. Down at the bottom right side, he was hailed as the Protoss Hope of China for quite a while back in Heart of the Swarm and early Legacy. It is Jim.
Taking on our red Protoss in the upper left-hand side of the map, we have from History Gaming, it is Nanami.
Now, it is going to be just high ground wall-offs for both sides on Oceanborn. Pretty standard right now. And we did see a little bit more sentry usage in that last series. Not a crazy amount, but a few more hallucinations flying across. A little bit more of that sentry damage. We'll see what comes out here between these two, as they do scout at the same time. Oceanborn's a map which we saw in that last game. You know, there's not that much room across the map. And you can see if you're fighting, it can be a non-stop stalker brawl. Prisms have lots of dead space to work around in the back as well, if they want to kind of just be annoying back there. And we'll see exactly how the players want to progress. So far, second gate comes down, and neither side faking a second pylon out of the map or anything like that. They're just going right on in there to see what the other guy is doing. When you got both players focusing and prioritizing on their scouting, that is kind of a sign that they want to not necessarily just try and catch their opponent off guard, but play a bit more differently. Now, Jim's going straight onto gas. Only 14 workers on minerals, 3 on one gas, 2 on the other, about to be 3. That to me says Stargate build. Doesn't have to be, but definitely tends to be in that direction, whereas Nanami has been very mineral focused. Keep the full saturation on minerals and then rally into the gases, which means usually kind of I want to get the Nexus up, I want to be just a couple of basic gateway units, maybe a bit more stalker focused than sentry focused in the opening as well.
Yep, no, definitely a couple different ways to look at all that. 2 adepts already on the way from Nanami, and you can see Jim getting that sentry immediately. So, whoa, a sentry opening pick in Asia. It's happening. I've seen them.
Wild. Jim believes in the sentry. Now, I mean, adepts don't do bonus to light as well. Not only do sentries do bonus damage to shields now, 6+4 to shields, which is great, but you've also got they're not light, so adepts actually take forever to kill them, whereas adepts used to be the natural predator of the sentry. So 4 adepts coming in. Whoa, hello. It's going to catch Jim's probe as these adepts shade out. At least Jim knows there's 2 adepts coming, and he starts another sentry. Oh, dude, this is exact. I would love to see a 6 adept versus 6 sentry opening. Like, this is exactly like, would you like to see the patch changes, ladies and gentlemen? This could potentially be exactly that. If we see a big fight between sentries and the new adepts, you know, can you still get enough adepts to just one-shot a sentry if you get like 6 or so? I don't think so. I mean, a sentry has 80 hit points, and adept does, what is it, like 10 damage? I think it is, without the bonus to light.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. It's, yeah, no, I think that's good.
Yeah, maybe you can 2-shot it even with battery healing than with 6 adepts, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. The adepts. Yeah, the sentry's going to scout. I mean, the hallucinations already scouts and sees what's going on. So, I mean, Jim's like, okay, cool, it's Robo, but also non-stop adepts. I imagine we're going to warp in 2 stalkers the moment that warp gate finishes in a second. Extra pylons on the way. Twilight Council's building. And these adepts don't really have that much chance. Pylon on the front. Oh, it is going to be an 8 adept timing.
Wow.
Oh, it's an 8 adept timing. Wow, that's a big commitment, mate.
Yeah, he's going to send it. I mean, you wouldn't think that this is as good now. The adepts, they get through, but obviously will not commit. 2 stalkers do begin to warp in. Blink starts up from Jim. He just needs numbers. He needs damage output. And these adepts, 8 of them come through.
Oh, I think they have 1 armor, so they should survive a single volley. But the adepts are just going to stay on the low ground. Oh my god, he goes for the pylon. This is a crazy move. You don't want to get trapped by force field, though. Ooh, good trap for Jim. Gets rid of one of these adepts. Great wall off with the gateway. Dude, Jim's defense is on point. Jim's looking tight. Oh, a force field would have been good there to maybe trap some of those adepts. He does trap a few of them. Quite a few probes going down, but is that worth losing so many adepts is the question. The probes don't even try to run away. I'm a little surprised at that. I thought Jim would pull the probes away to deny the easy targets. 5 adepts for 8 probes. Not a terrible trade for Jim, but you got to be careful losing economy, because economy is the main thing in StarCraft. It is what you turn into everything else. And look at that. Sentry's kind of blocking, actually, but the Stalker's a little slow to react there. Definitely Nanami being annoying. Jim's in trouble. If he loses too many more probes, he's going to have to do a very vicious counterattack, which could work, but you don't want to be forced into a position in StarCraft. You never want to be in a spot where you have to go do damage to them. And he is indeed in a position where that is something that he would like to do. Pylon sees the 3rd Nexus go down. Looks like Jim's just going to try and macro out of this, but he's going to need a lot of chronos on those probes if he wants that to work out.
Yeah, Nanami's up, 10 workers. I initially did think, I was like, man, well, Jim's killing all these adepts. He's going to have a good timing on the counter with that blink, but the more probes that he lost, the less powerful that timing was going to end up being. And now, as blink is done, he's just taking the third base, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't hate it in terms of, like, I don't think you can necessarily do something across the map, but I do hate it because you're taking the third when down 10 workers here. There's actually going to be potentially a push from Nanami with an Immortal or two that could be very powerful as well, so there's just a lot of threat here in the future for Jim.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Stalkers should have been on the other side. He should have sent something over, because now he's both not in position to defend the Prism and he's not doing any counter aggression, and that is crazy damage. Oh, he's not running probes again? I think both times running probes is the counter to adepts, but he's not running them.
Yeah. He's not doing anything, mate. He's just sitting there. Nine more workers lost. The damage from Nanami is through the roof, and as he gets another Immortal up, it just gets safer and safer for him. I mean, I guess the problem for Nanami is he did not take a third, so Jim now has a third. Nanami knows this. He's adding 6 more gateways. He's just going to go for one massive timing at some stage of this.
Yeah, man's not making blink this game. Nanami's not making blink. This is just going to be charge and go. maybe even adding a few arcs. There might be a third Nexus that comes up kind of delayed, but I don't think Nanami's going to be probing it very much. I think it's going to be a transitional third at best. So yeah, Jim's trying to recover on 3 base, trying to make his own charge. I'm always torn in this position if I've taken this much damage in early PvP, where I'm like, okay, I mean, you did kill the Prism, you caught a lot of adepts. Nanami lost more units and didn't get a third base off it. So like, there is an argument that Jim can just be very efficient with Stalker defense and get back into the game. The problem is going to be Archons coming in. Like, Archons, if you go too heavy on the Zealots, the Archons will do very well. You know, the Sentries with the Guardianship, the 3 Immortals, if they ever land hits on your Stalkers, the density of Nanami's value in his army is quite high, and Jim still hasn't dealt with that pylon below his third base. He does know about it. I'm a little surprised that he hasn't dealt with that just yet, as Mapu's pointing out. He has seen it.
Yep, it is there. It is chilling. And we do have ourselves the charge coming up from Nanami. That's going to be pretty much the trigger to go. He has so much gas, by the way, and there we have the High Templars warping in, so he can spend that gas, and that's really going to power up his army supply. It's 60 to 33, almost doubling here. And with all the timing windows kind of coming together at once, Nanami is getting set to go and looking to kill Jim, punish him for going to that third base, and punish him for all that damage he took earlier in the game.
Jim doesn't seem to see the Zealots swapping in at his third. This is crazy. It's been envisioned the whole time. He's gonna not react. Jim being a little bit slow to the pull here, the pull the trigger, and he's on a move command as well. Jim definitely having a rough start to today's games. And the Zealot Archon does come forward, trying to take down the battery. With the battery overcharge not even available, Jim's 8 gateways just finished. His cannons aren't quite ready. He was trying to build a cannon in every base, but he is just getting absolutely mauled. Nanami with the heavy adept pressure into a swarming 2-base charge load Immortal Archon timing attack. A big way to just overwhelm your opponent, and that was brutally efficient as a finishing blow.
Nanami did really just identify, hey, look, I did a lot of damage. You're going to try and get back in the game by playing macro? No, I'm not having that. So he just shuts that down right from the very get-go. Nanami takes that first opening map, and it's going to be up by 1. Here against Jim, obviously, again, they're both 0-1 in the group. It's an important series to kind of, set up week 2 for yourselves. But yeah, Nanami obviously taking the lead here, and we'll see what Jim adjusts in game 2. It did feel as though the potential to defend properly was there from Jim. Like, if he pulled the probes away initially, that first adept attack is nowhere near as bad. He could have caught them with the sentries and force fields a little better.
Yeah.
Potential was there, but the execution was lacking. It's almost like he's allergic to selecting his probes because he just could not pull them away multiple times over different attacks, and he just let them sit there and take the entirety of the damage, so...
It kind of, when the adepts committed into the natural the first time, I think he actually had 2 force fields, and I thought he could actually block behind the minerals and in the minerals and kind of trap those adepts and just kill them all, because there wasn't enough to get through the battery damage unless they're one-shotting probes, right? But then they were able to just kind of shuffle through the mineral line and kill a ton of probes, and it was surprising because even at that point it was like, just click the probes to the left side of the mineral line at the very least, or your third base or something like that. And I that's the thing, is like, I guess as a Zerg player primarily, I've played a lot of PvP and stuff, but I mean, you learned very quickly in the early days of Legacy of the Void, when Adept Terrace came around, run drones away. And then that was really nailed in after Zest beat Serral at Katowice with, you know, he ushered in the year of non-stop Glaive Adept openings back in 2020, I think it was. And that was like, oh, okay, every player has played against it a billion times. But it is surprising because, I mean, 6 Adept openings, 8 Adept openings, it was always like the wall-offs were great. Like, it felt like Jim's early game was so clean with the pylons, the batteries, then going for gateway wall-off to make sure they couldn't focus it down. It was just the not pulling the probes away that was a bit confusing. And then after that damage, it felt like he was just a little bit shook. You know, when the minimap awareness disappears like that to the point where there's a red dot on your minimap next to your third and you just don't notice it for over a minute, that's something we only see when a player is like, their adrenaline's pumping like crazy, or they're in Silver League. You know, it's one of those two things. So I think Jim's maybe just having a bit of an off day, or he's just gonna have to try and refocus this game, because not seeing the pylon in the third, to me, shows that he's a little bit distracted today, and he's going to need to just totally get his mind in the right spot now to get back on track.
Well, it's going to be game number 2. We'll see if he can get his mind in the right spot. It's Ghost River. We saw crazy cannon rush on this map earlier from Haas. We'll see if the PvP has any shenanigans for us this time around as we get into it right here. Ghost River it is here, and we get into game number 2. See if Jim, like you say, can refocus, get back on track, or if Nanami is just going to run away with it in these next few moments.
It's a good skill check opening from Nanami in game 1. You know, hey, let's open up with a bunch of adepts, get in there, give him a hard time. It's one of those things where, you know, whenever I play against that in a PvP, I'm kind of going to myself like, oh gosh, I know this takes a refined response, and I know at some point I'm going to not put that gateway down in the wall and I'm going to let the adepts in or something like that. It's often like when you play it's that you're like, I defended well, I killed an adept, I killed another 2 adepts, haven't lost many probes yet. And then they get in and kill 10 probes and you're like, and an oracle flies in and everything falls apart. So I'm sure Jim frustrated after that first game, as we do get the famous your load screen goes to about 40% and then it just sits there and you go, oh, did someone drop? Did someone lag out?
And then
I've once been on this screen for 5 minutes and then it's finished loading.
Yeah. Usually it's like someone crashes and then they don't actually like close their client when it's crashed. Because when they close out of the crash, it usually loads instantly for everyone. But then, yeah, it's a thing. Some people just don't realize that their game's crashed, even though it's like literally like spinning wheel in the middle of the screen and stuff. But yeah, we are just a little stuck right now.
That's all right. It's going to be Ghost River PvP, though. Nanami showed heavy pressure in game 1. The 2-base timing might not be the, you know, fanciest way to finish things off, but if you're far ahead, like, it's very safe if you think your opponent's going to desperately counter push. Like, if I take a third, Blink Stalkers run in, you can open yourself up to problems, right? But if you sit on 2-base with a battery, Immortal Sentries, make your Forge, make your +1, make your 8 gates, it's not a bad play. I do hope to see a few more disruptors at some point today. I was very excited seeing those from SCV in the previous series, but we'll see how we go. Marpu pointing out that the players are playing with using, you know, VPNs and things. There can be different internet issues that happen, of course, trying to make sure they do get the best connections to the servers. So fair enough. We'll just take a minute to sort this one out. And don't forget, guys, that technology is the vehicle of esports, and much like sometimes it rains or other weather events cancel sporting events, sometimes here with gaming events, we have to have delays in things just due to technological issues. So thank you for your patience.
We appreciate it, guys. Yeah, at some point this is just gonna crash out or so. Just need to figure out what the situation is. I know it's been we've actually had pretty generally kind of quick going movement lately, but in this event, but today's been a little bit slower here and there. So that's gonna be one thing that we're just kind of sitting and waiting on. As well, there's the referee, but Nanami's AFK, so I think we're just gonna jump out, get this hosted again, and go for round 2 pick.
Referee! It's always someone. I mean, to be fair, at least this isn't one of those bloody weekly lobbies. We get to the finals of EU and there's 37 people in the lobby. And every time Kevin goes, pig, stop making everyone lag from Australia. I'm like, it's not me. I was casting every other game. It's one of the other 37 casters in this lobby, but no one knows who it is, and they're not going to own up to it. So, yeah, at least it's just a few of us on this one, which is much less chance for technical issues, but it is what it is. Looks like we're getting the remake now. They're going to host that one up.
Yep.
No doubt be ready to start another PvP extra chance for Jim to kind of give himself a shot of coffee here, get himself perked up and awake for the next game.
Yep. I'm just gonna try and get this ready to go. I mean, Jim is, see, I mean, a bit nerve-wracking, man. You about to load into your game and you're like, it freezes and you have to regame. You're like, oh man, I was so ready to go. So, yeah.
It is what it is, man. As the players get into it, they get another chance, though. At least there was no... it's always annoying when it dies 2 minutes into the game or something like that, you know? And, like, you've scouted each other's openings or something, because then it's like, now we have to resume from replay, because we really don't want different spawns or anything else to happen. And players sometimes giving away what they started with, and then they want to change it up, because the other player has too much time to, like, think about it and plan and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. All right, PvP coming up, gang. Okay, so outside of that early game stuff, we did see a bit of Oracle opening earlier today as well. So let's explain some fundamentals of PvP to kill a bit of time while we get this one set up. Basically, the old school triangle that was always described of counters in PvP is Robo counters, Twilight counters, Stargate, Stargate counters, Robo. And basically what that means is like, hey, if there's Phoenix and Oracles, they're going to harass the heck out of you. Robo does nothing that shoots up. Phoenix counter Prisms. Phoenix can pick up Immortals. Basically, Robo sucks against that. However, Immortals and Prisms can do very well against Blink, especially in the early stages. But the longer it goes, Blink is the more well-rounded and standard upgrade because it gives you so much mobility, the ability to blink in, blink out, run around, do counterattacks and all that sort of stuff. And of course, if you've got a quick blink, you can shut down Oracles and Phoenix and really give them very little chance to harass you. But that's very much a simplification. So you've got obviously windows where before Blink's done, you know, basically the Oracle can get in and do a ton of damage. And if the Oracles get a bunch of damage, they set themselves up to get their own Blink behind and you go to that middle stage. But Blink is the most standard. Robo makes you much less mobile. You kind of centralize your power wherever your Immortals and your Prism are, and you can't move around too much. You can't cover multiple areas. Blink's a bit more mobile. And Stargate, of course, is the ultimate high-speed mobile scouting opening, but it gives you almost no power with your frontal army. So it's going to give you disadvantages in the early fights. You need to find better scouting, better harassment to make that worthwhile. Hopefully that explains some stuff as we're finally getting into game. Thank you everyone for bearing with us as we fill a bit of time there, but it looks like we're going into game 2. Lost game 1 after a bit of inattention. In the top left side in the blue, we've got Jim.
In the top right upper map, it is going to be Nanami. In that penultimate series of Asia today, who will take the win? Who will close this out? Questions being asked.
All right, so I mean, this map, you know what I haven't seen yet is anyone open the top minerals for a sneaky push, and I guess it's only really something that comes in later in the game. But I keep thinking on this map, like at some point, are we going to see someone open up that slightly faster push path and use that? Yeah, probably not in PvP. If there's a matchup for it, probably not this one. Very early scout for Jim. Is he going to fake cannon rush? This map does have a nasty cannon spot we found out about earlier. Remember Haas doing the proxy gate. I wonder if he's going to put down a pylon to try and scare him. I think seeing such an early probe for Nanami, he can't really get much of a reaction anyway. Yeah. And he ends up maybe just doing this because he's worried about being on the receiving end of that cannon rush and just wants to be super safe.
Yeah. He's going to be seeing the gates on both sides then. So both players are going to get that scout off early and see, okay, nothing crazy here just yet. Oh. That probe goes down, though. Usually the probe sticks around a long time, so that's now Jim. Yeah. Just with less information than he should usually have for the foreseeable future in this game. That is a big deal.
Jim also 2 games in a row now has put 3 workers on one gas while there's none on the other. So it's just a little bit inefficient. For those who don't know, when you have a 3rd worker on gas, they have to wait a little bit for the other guy to finish mining. So the 3rd worker is a bit less efficient than the other 2. You do want to go 2 on each and then the 3rd. Something that everyone used to be really detail oriented on, including, I'm pretty sure I've seen Jim do that many times, but recently a bunch of players have been really lazy on that. So I'm like, Jim, no, you're one of the old dogs. You know not to do this. It's the young kids that are lazy with this, not the old dogs. But falling into that habit. Hero likes to do that one sometimes. I'm always like, no, Hero. But Stalker Sentry for Nanami, double Stalker for Jim. Interesting to see Nanami look like he's in a bit more of a defensive stance. I do wonder if Jim pulls out an all-in or something at some point. He's making it look like an expand build so far. Once the double Stalker's out, we'll see some decisions though.
Yep, those 2 Stalkers are about to pop. So out they come, and we'll see what the next choice of this is going to be. Sentry on the way from Nanami back at home, so he's putting his money there rather than any sort of tech structure at all. And Jim does start up 2 more Stalkers, so we'll have a lot of firing power on the map. We'll be able to wander across and throw some shots, but we'll see if that ever ends up being enough here.
Jim did run over with a second probe to throw down another pylon to block the expansion. Bit of damage goes down that sentry, adding a significant amount of damage these days. Remember,
That's
that
crazy.
plus 40 shields helps burn through those very quickly. We used to call it the light bulb attack, you know, the flashlight, like it's just shining a light on the unit going, hey, I'm totally tickling you, you know, the tickle beam. Many disrespectful names for the sentry's damage. Never again will we use that in PvP. We absolutely are fearful of its damage now. It's like an actual gateway unit that does a fair bit. 2 sentries, 2 stalks, more than enough. Oh god, Jim, run to the right. Oh, you're gonna get force fielded? Yeah, you should have run to the right. Oh, good catch by Nanami. Very well done.
So on point with these force fields. Has been really able to kind of take me or make the most of them. Becoming such an important thing in PvP, being good with your force fields, because these sentries are better. You're going to have them more often in the early game. As this prism comes up here from Jim, and he is going to be getting set. But as Nanami expands with a robo of his own, I love that for him, because it means he's going to have the way to, a way to basically match Jim in a lot of ways. You get your own immortal out, then you get your own prism to micro. The defensive setup here that's possible for Nanami looks good. Let's see what he builds. It is an immortal first. I think that's the right call. Get a real power unit out, and honestly feel it's going to be difficult for Jim to do something. He's probably going to have to get quite creative with his push. We do have sentries, remember, so the force fields are a big factor as well when it comes to taking this fight and the position that the fight can take place in. I'm still terrified for these stalkers. They're about to get force fielded one more time, but with the prism now here, that's less of a factor. And now you can use those sentries purely as just kind of defensive mechanisms. It's a lot of stalkers. Oh, force fields there. Already going to catch, and the prism's too far away, so that stalker does go down.
Dude, I don't know what Jim can do with this, because he doesn't have an immortal. There's an immortal out now for Nanami.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to get some adepts in the main might be the way to do it. Go quickly, warp 3 adepts in the main, get them in the middle line. But I don't think pure Stalker has any chance of overwhelming this. Not with the sentry damage, not with immortals and batteries. Pure Stalker is beyond the pipe dream at this point. Look, every time one of these units goes down, the prism almost dies as well. Dude, Nanami is all over this. Like, he's looking like a different caliber of Protoss player. No offense to Jim by any means. Nanami is clearly a player we should have our eye on. You know, this younger generation of players coming up, they're very skilled, man. They put in their hours, they've practiced a lot. And even Nanami getting out front of his base like this, just looking for any pick-offs he can grab.
Dead.
Gets the prism.
Yeah.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, and this is all with the expansion being up as well, right? So yeah, Jim knows it. He realizes that this is not going anywhere for